Okay, this time I'm going to talk about functions where we return some information. So this is where we call a function during my code. We might send it some information and it's going to calculate something or do some kind of process and then return something back to the main code to be used in a future part of the program. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to do this really simple calculator which just adds together two numbers. So I'm going to start with number 1, get some input. Let's just say first number. Now remember, because I want it to be a number that I can add up, as in a calculator, I need to convert that to a number rather than just take it as a string. And I'm going to get a second number as well. I'm just using Control-C and Control-V to copy stuff around, makes things a lot easier. Okay, so in its very simplest form, I could just say number 1 plus number 2, and I just press tab on that drop down to actually accept whatever it's suggesting. So 1 and 2, 3, perfect, that looks good. But as we've seen before, it's nice to be able to use a function. So I'm going to create a function up here to sum two numbers. So I'm going to get a number 1 and a number 2. And when I get those, I'm just going to print num1 plus num2. Okay, so then down here in my code, rather than printing the result, I want to send it off to my function. So I'm going to say sum, and I'm going to send number 1 and number 2. Okay, so my code now is going to run. Great, it understands how I'm going to add up. Then I gather the first number, gather the second number, then I'm going to call the sum function and send those two numbers. Here's the sum. It's going to grab those two numbers and store them in new variables called num1, num2, and it's going to print the addition of those. So if we just go run that again, the output looks exactly the same, but of course we know that the code's running quite differently. This time, instead of just printing it there and that's it, I want to send it back to my main code. So I could do maybe something else, so maybe added it to something else or whatever. So in order to do that, instead of saying print, I'm going to just say total. Actually, I'm just going to return it directly from here. So I'm going to say return number 1 and number 2. So it's going to send that back. Right now, that's going to fail though, because sure, it's getting something back from this, but it's got no way to store it. It'll just go into nothing. So what I have to do here is say the total equals whatever you get back from this function where I give you number 1 and number 2. So the code is going to go, great, I know how to add up and I know what I have to send back. I'm going to get the first number, I'm going to get the second number. I've got a variable that I'm going to store whatever I get back from this. So I'm going to sum number 1 and number 2. I'm going to get back the addition and store it as total. And then I'm going to print the total is. Okay, so let's have a look. 1, 2, the total is 3. So if you can see, we're passing information in, data in through these parameters, and then we're returning information back, but we must store that by assigning it to a variable name when we get that back, and then we can use it in other places throughout our code. So that's a pretty simple version there. Just to note here, I mean, I normally set out my code like this. All variables, if you're doing declarations, should be at the top. We don't often do them in Python. Your functions always need to come next, and then your main. If you are calling the function and the function is afterwards, if these were down here, it wouldn't know what to do because by the time you're saying sum, it hasn't read that. So the functions have to be at the top.